If you're like me and you don't consider yourself an expert in the kitchen, now in the event of a cooking emergency, there's a new smartphone app to provide fixes and creative solutions to common cooking problems. And here to tell us about it is Charmian Christie. Thanks for joining us, Charmian.
Thank you for having me.
So this is an app that you can download. It's relatively new, or?
It's May 1st it came online for iTunes, and at the end of the month it'll be available for Android.
Great. And just explain what it's about. How can it help people?
It can help you because there are tons of recipe apps out there, but they don't tell you what to do when things go wrong. And so this looks at ways of dealing with common cooking disasters, such as when cookies go bad or you overcook meat. So that's what the app looks like. It's called Kitchen Disasters and Fixes. And so I thought today I'd talk a little bit about some of the fixes that are really quick and simple.
And we should be clear here, I didn't make any of the cooking mistakes involved in this demonstration,
I actually burned the cookies on purpose.
Now we're just looking at some of the aspects of the app here.
That's a category called baking, and you can see some of the options that are under baking, such as bread that won't rise or bread that won't stop rising. So that's probably the biggest category on the app, because everything can go wrong with baking. But I've got meat and fruits and vegetables and eggs and dairy, so there's a whole gamut. No matter where your troubles are, there's an answer somewhere along the line.
So in this case, we've got some cookies, but there's a bit of an issue with these cookies,
These cookies are, I'm afraid to say, burned. Can you see that? So I've got a really burned cookie here. And one of the solutions is simply grating it on a microplane. And the microplane is one of my favorite gadgets. Back and forth, and you will remove, I'm making a bit of a mess, the burned bottom. Now,
is there an app for cleaning up the mess?
No, unfortunately not. And if you can see what I'm doing, it's becoming, there's a section where it's no longer burned. So you just do that with the cookie.
So one of the things, so how would you just sort of, you just put in the search option,
yes,
cookies, and then...
you go to baking, or you could look up C for cookies, and there's also the links to the microplane. So if you don't know what a microplane is, it takes you over there, and it tells you what a microplane is good for. I use it for cheese and garlic and ginger and a whole bunch of things, but it also fixes burned cookies.
Good to know. I appreciate that. That's some good advice. So what else can the app help you out with?
It can help you out with all kinds of things. The cookies, for example, it's not just the microplane. I have various solutions because the pan can be the problem. So this is a really cheap baking pan that burns cookies. I have two cheap baking pans. I put them together, and I now have the equivalent of an expensive baking pan. If you don't have two, you can buy a silicone mat, and again, the solution links to the silicone mat. You can buy these for about $10 in the grocery store. You would lay that on one of the baking sheets, and it provides insulation, and your cookies won't burn. So there are actually 3 fixes for one problem.
And I'm sure many people would be appreciative of that in terms of the potential problems when it
comes
to baking cookies, right?
Cookie lovers
So we're looking at another aspect of the app here?
That's the beef, and sometimes beef gets overcooked. So one of the solutions is to use a meat thermometer. It's not expensive. This one is wonderful because it actually tells you what temperature for the various things from chicken to pork to beef, and you can do medium rare, rare, or well done. The trick to this is when you're cooking the beef, you want to test it, you put it parallel to the bone, not touching the bone, if I was pretending this was the bone. The bone heats hotter than the meat, so if you touch the bone with this, it's going to give you a false reading, and you're going to think it's cooked when it's not. So this $10 solution can save a $30 roast. So we look at that.
And anything else here that you want to point out in terms of...
I've got lots of things. Some of the disasters, one of the easiest things are these little sieves. These are about, this is about $2. And I used this when I was making the cookies because the baking soda sometimes clumps, and I just put it in there and I gave it a few taps, and the baking soda was then dissolved really nicely. And you know when you're eating a cookie and you get a clump of baking soda? You can't fix that disaster. You have to do it before you put them in the oven. The other thing that I love is a sieve, and this is you can get rounded ones or pointed ones, whatever you like for your style of cooking. This is great for lumpy gravy, and one of the things with the meat is, what do you do with the gravy? And if it's lumpy, you can put it in the blender, but that means a big, huge cleanup. I like to put it in the sieve and just run it around, and it strains out all the lumps. So a very inexpensive solution, and your dinner's on the table.
Because you certainly want to smooth out that lumpy gravy.
don't like lumpy
That's not
gravy.
popular.
I don't like
Okay, so
lumpy
here's
gravy
another
at
look
all.
at the app.
That's the app.
It is available now for iPhones.
$2.99
right?
for iPhones through the iTunes Store.
Right. And soon for
Android.
Android.
I'm understanding it's at the end of this week or maybe early next.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us, Charmaine. I appreciate it. And
Thanks
if you
for
would like
having
more
me.
information, you can find a link on our website. Just click on links and numbers. Now it's back over to